Has science proven the existence of astrology? Okay, this is crazy. Get in here. This is Jack with Cosmic Road. I talk about UFOs and the paranormal. Please hit like, please subscribe, share on social media, and comment below as I'm going through this story. Okay, this is from Steve Mara's podcast. I'm a fan of his research and his work in general. And he had a really interesting guest on the other day. And he was talking about physics and various things involving, a different understanding of our reality based on physics. And one of the things that he said that really caught my eye was this idea that astrology could have actual basis in physics. So, let me let him explain what he was talking about.
And I was like, okay, so I started looking at this, and I'm like, because the essential theory of the hyperdimensional physics, big part of it is that gravity doesn't matter. Electromagnetism doesn't matter. What matters is a force called torsion, dynamic torsion, which Einstein studied, but he only looked at static torsion, not dynamic. Okay. To keep it simple, it's a spiraling torsion field theory, right? Which we don't want to get into the details of that because we will bore everyone. Yeah. But those are affected by the planets with the most spin energy. So what's far more important than mass and gravity in the solar system and how it works is spin energy. And guess what? The planets have 99% of the spin energy. The sun only has 1%. So it's like the position of the sun doesn't matter in terms of our physical effects. But what it means is that as the planets change configuration, not only in relationship to Earth, but to each other, then things will change in the physical realm. You'll have different effects. And this was proven out by experiments like RCA did, where they discovered in the 1950s that, why are shortwave radio signals really good during some times and really crappy at other times? And this guy came back, John Nelson, he came back and he said, well, it's the positions of the planets, especially the gas giants. Oh, they're the ones with all the spin energy. And when they were in positive, like if you look at conventional astrology, there's trines, which are good, and there's squares, which I think are good, and then there's opposition, which is bad, and something else, which is bad. And he basically found when they were in bad configurations, the signals went bad. The sun got very excited and interfered with the shortwave radio signals. When they were in positive aspects, like trines, the big gas giants with all the spin energy, everything went good and smooth, and the sun got quiet. So that right there is an example of a physical effect.
Right. Okay.
So this is why they would have been curious about this at NASA.
He went on to illustrate how this is an example of astrology being real and how the planets move and affect each other, and that lines up basically with astrology. And he also goes on to talk about these 12-year cycles and how we are toward the end of a 12-year cycle right now that began, of course, in 2012. Here he is talking a little bit about that.
Looked at that, and I tied it in with 2012 because I thought that this 2012, there's some awareness here of some shift that's happening. And I realized there was these two cycles. If you add 5,125 years to the one of the Vedic Yuga cycles, it's 2020.
So that's like a starting point.
Right. It's 2012 was the starting point. 2024 is the ending point because it was the two different cycles. It was the Mayan cycle and the Yuga cycle. Okay. So I looked at that, and then I looked at, well, what does the astrology say for this period? Let's say for the United States. And it shows total chaos. And I'm like,
well, that's where we are.
I'm like, well, so this means that we are opening a door, opening a window in 2012. That's what it's all about. And it should end around 2024. And then I went through a whole series of other things where I pulled together different research that other people had done. And I came to understand that what it means is we're going through this 12-year transition. And it's all about making a choice. And I thought it has to do with destruction. It has to do with cataclysm.
It's all over the world.
Right.
I mean, we're seeing it.
Isn't that fascinating, the idea that astrology could be real? I had never taken astrology very seriously, but when I got into Reiki, which some of you will probably consider to be very woo-woo, but once you have felt the Reiki energy or have gone through a session where the Reiki healer has been able to identify every, physical ailment you have or have ever had, you might be persuaded that Reiki is a real thing. Well, when I started taking Reiki classes, several of the people in my class believed in astrology. I at first thought that was pretty silly, but then I got to know them better, and I learned that they all had abilities and sensitivities that I didn't have. I've been able to cobble together some understanding of Reiki and an ability to use it and to channel that energy. But these guys can do it very naturally, and they can do other things as well. Out-of-body experiences, telekinesis, all this crazy stuff, some of these guys are able to do to various degrees. So when they say stuff, that sounds a little out there, I take them a lot more seriously than I would have otherwise. They recommended that I do an astrology chart of my own birth. So I did, and I was surprised about how well it lined up, honestly. It was weird. It was kind of spooky. But then again, it was a very, very long chart. I mean, it goes into incredible detail and just says a whole bunch of stuff. And, of course, you're going to find some stuff in there that corresponds to your own life. So I am still, to this day, not persuaded on astrology. But I do consider myself open-minded on the issue. And when I run across something like this, which actually gives a physical explanation of astrology and how it works and how the planets work. And it's all this spin energy and how that connects to higher realms and higher planes of existence, which is what he goes on to talk about. And I recommend watching his full interview. And I recommend, the Steve Mara's show in general and Steve Mara's research. He has some really interesting things to say. But he's not the one coming up with this particular research. This is his guest. And this is a fascinating interview. I think I'm probably going to buy the book this guy is trying to sell, The Choice. He believes that we're in a 12-year cycle and we are in some sort of transition period. This seems to correspond to transitioning into something like the fifth dimension or the fourth density. The age of Aquarius, that whole thing, the idea that we are transitioning or we have the possibility to transition right now into a greater reality or a greater understanding of our spirituality, and that's going to lead to a better Earth and a better existence on Earth for humanity. And a better coexistence with, Gaia herself. So these are ideas that have been around for a long time. And 2012 really started to kickstart a lot of these ideas that, now we're coming toward the, fruition of all of that stuff. So is that the case? I don't know, but I did a video not too long ago about different apocalyptic modalities. And I explored different apocalyptic mythologies that all seem to correspond to the end of the world or possibly the beginning of the next world or the next iteration of this world at the end of the 2020s or the early 2030s, which roughly corresponds to all this, transitioning to the fourth density or fifth dimension sort of thing. And again, that roughly corresponds to his timeline. He says the period of transition ends in 2012. 2024. It begins in 2012. The window closes in 2024. And by then we need to have made a choice, according to him. Humanity needs to have made a choice whether to transition or not. Personally, I consider this simply another one of these apocalyptic modalities, this time backed up by science. Of course, some of these other modalities were backed up by science. Some of them were actual events that were going to occur, like the the asteroid passing between the moon and the Earth in a few years. So, which corresponds to a lot of these prophecies, etc. So, is that what's going to happen? I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. Please smash the subscribe button and hit the bell so you don't miss a single video. Please join me on social media. There's Facebook and Twitter links below. And please, if you enjoy these videos, please consider supporting the channel by becoming a channel member. See the first line in the description below, and there's 2 tiers of membership to receive exclusive access in videos. Until next time, this is Jack with Cosmic Road.